Hello guys, I brought you a gift today. I'll show you how to maintain your aquarium like a pro. This, ladies and gentlemen, here is the maintenance checklist of Green Aqua. This is what the team members are using on a daily basis. This is what I have been working on for weeks before they started using it. And they've been using it for about like half a year or so. So this is the result of a long process, creative process, and I'll share it with you. So here you go. You will thank me later. You're welcome to the beautiful world of aquascaping. Regular maintenance of aquariums is very important. It is the next most important thing to filtration. If you miss something, you'll need to work twice as much on your aquarium. You'll have to spend twice as much time. You'll get frustrated because of algae. So how to avoid missing things? With a checklist, of course. Even pilots have a checklist. Obviously, they're responsible for lives of people. Before they take off, they read through the takeoff checklist, and there's a post-takeoff checklist and another checklist when they reach the cruising altitude. So there are many things that they need to take care of. Is that because they don't know their job? Of course they do. It's because they don't want to get the routine in their way of missing things. And it happens to everybody. It happens to me. We're just people. I think that the majority of the aquascapers do not have a maintenance checklist. They are working by their routine. They have a routine which works fine. It used to work fine for me, but when you have like 19 or 20 tanks like we do here at Green Aqua, or when you don't want to just work by routine, then a good checklist is really important to have. Yeah, and also before we move on, you need to know that okay, we make mistakes, so not all Green Aqua aquariums are perfect all the time. People are missing, they go on vacation. One of our maintenance team members just got sick, was missing for a week, but no problem. With this list, I'm going to be able to do things to clarify that, to get rid of all the mistakes, to jump over the problems, and to make sure that the next time we're gonna come back to the particular aquarium, this aquarium in our case, everything's gonna be fine. You're not gonna see algae, you're not gonna see any problems with it. So without further ado, let's just jump into this list. This list has 40 lines. You don't have to do everything that you see here. You'll only have to do whatever you think that would apply to your aquarium. Obviously, if you do not have a UV filter, you will not include that line in your list. But I'm going to link something in the description. It's called maintenance.greenaqua.com. If you visit that link, you get to our maintenance page, and I'll put this list into the maintenance page. So you will be able to read it, to translate it into your own language, to edit it, whatever you wish to do with it. Again, this is something that we do here. First one, general. Conduct a general assessment. Check for scent. If the aquarium stinks of ammonia, then you have a rotting organic problem. This is cool, okay? Algae. Okay, in this case, we've got some CO2 related algae on the front plants. I can see some black brush algae in the back. I can see some green algae, which is a different types of algae that I see on the Monte Carlo and on the hair grass. Plant health. Plant health is good. I can see that the Rotala rotundifolia is photosynthesizing. I can see that the plants are nice and green. It's a relatively new tank, so it's quite normal to have some algae. The hardscape is in place. It's not, you know, sometimes when you glue them with liquid super glue, paper towel combination, sometimes they get loose. Rocks are fine, nothing moved. There's not much detail in the foreground, but I don't remember putting any pebbles in here. Address root causes. So, question, why do we have algae in this tank? And I don't want to get rid of algae before I find out why. Root cause for this, it could be new tank, it could be CO2 problems, because it's a CO2 related thing. It could be low temperatures because the air conditioning is not strong enough to heat up the whole gallery. So right here we have probably 18 degrees, which is borderline too low for these kinds of tanks. But right now, as I touch it, it's probably 22, so it's fine. So we addressed the root cause, so we're expecting this to go away. Okay, so Mickey is telling me that the drop checker is yellow, so maybe it's the CO2. I don't know. It's a little bit yellowish, so it's in between green and yellow, so I would say that it is fine. So until these fish are not gasping for air on the surface in 45 degrees, I would say that the CO2 levels are fine, okay? The root cause should not be determined at this point. At this point, we're just treating the symptoms. After that, I can go back and think of the root cause, determine the root cause after I went through the whole list. Okay, so let's go to the second one. Scrape algae from the glass. Right now, I know that the guys did it, so if I look into the tank, it says also check from side. So if I'm looking at this from the side, I can see that at the middle, you can see some green spots from the side. It is very difficult to see what we are doing on camera, but if you let it be and you don't scrape the algae off, then you're going to have an issue in about a week or so. So this is why it's very important to do the algae scraping with regular maintenances, even on a daily basis if you have the time. It's quite a quick process with this algae scraper or with a green aqua sponge. By the way, we ship to most European countries, so you guys can support us by buying stuff from Green Aqua. Thank you. Sometimes when there's a lot of algae on a plant, there's no way that I can scrape that off. So it's time to just remove this plant. I'm trimming off algae from the plant, see? And I could just trim the whole thing, and that's how I remove it. Should I stop the filter? Not for the show purposes, but before I start doing it, obviously I'm going to stop the filter. Clean silicone edges with a toothbrush, plastic brush. You cannot use the algae scraper, or you cannot use the sponge next to the edges because you would scrape that glue. Treat BGA, otherwise known as cyanobacteria, in the soil. This aquarium does not have any cyanobacteria. Remove mom. Also during the maintenances, it's very important to move the suction side hose along the top of the plants, or one hand should move like a fan, should move the plants while you're sucking out so that the debris would be sucked out from in between the plants. Next step, ensure crystal clear water. If cloudy, use the ADA clear water, 1 milliliter for 20 liters for new tanks and 1 milliliter per 40 liters for old tanks. I don't see any tint issues, I don't see any cloudiness in here, so the water is absolutely crystal clear. Sand should be uniformly thin along the front glass with no visible gluing points. What about the gluing points? Sometimes what I do is that during the construction of the tank, I drip some super glue on the top of the sand so it would not roll forward. Sometimes it's being washed out, or it's being, moved around, and then you can see an artificial step into that, and I don't want to leave that there. I want to refill that with new sand. Remove soil particles from the sand with a magnetic tool or suction hose. Soil particles are lighter than sand. Fan off the sand from plants and hardscape. Inevitably, the sand will start to move around, and when it does move around, then you have an issue. It would settle onto the hardscape, it would settle onto the plants, and you need to get rid of that. Clean algae-infested rocks, hardscape with a metallic brush. And with that, the general assessment part is ready. Second part, wildlife. Check the livestock. They should be moving normally, have an appetite, and no visible signs of disease in them. They're somewhat afraid of me right now, so they're not moving normally. But before we started shooting, I saw that they're swimming everywhere. They looked, happy. Next step, remove dead leaves. Replace unsightly plants with similar fresh ones as advised by the layout creator. Trim plants touching the glass. Regularly prune plants or trim plants following the design concept. Remove dead plant parts and uneaten fish food from the soil, and plants rotting can cause algae. You don't realize, but sometimes if you feed the wrong type of fish food to the fish and they cannot eat it because it's too big, it's going to fall down onto the soil. It's going to stick in between the plants. It will start rotting there. You could actually see the white fungus or rot coming out of it. Remove plant parts from the surface using a fish net, your hands, paper towels, a brush. And the last step in the wildlife preservation project, not true, remove unwanted snails, that's why it's not true, with a water change hose, tweezers, or a snail catcher. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 13. So the closer you look, the more snails you will see, okay? So I would say that there are no snails here, but if I start counting, I promise you, I will stop at 50. And we don't need those snails because they just came with the plants. They don't pose a threat, so don't be afraid of snails. If the biology is okay, you will not have anything else. Next topic, gear. Clean the skimmer and adjust its position. Ensure no shrimp or plants are caught inside or around it. If you have like an Eheim skim 350, then if you don't have the guard installed, which comes as a separate part, then you will have an issue of the shrimp trying to grease on the organics that you have there, and then they're going to be sucked into there and they're not going to die. So if you discover them after a day or two, you can still release them back into the tank and nothing will happen to them. At this point, we don't have a skimmer with a pump, but we have a skimmer that is built in together with the outlet. Okay, next step. Fill the CO2 bubble counters to 2/3. Check the drop checker color and refill the solution if needed. I would say that I would need to refill this, and also what Miki said at the beginning, you have the yellowish color of this, which would probably indicate a lot of CO2, but because of the behavior of the fish, I would think that this is fine. The drop checker, for those of you who do not know, is measuring the CO2 levels in the aquarium. Clean exterior glass to remove watermarks. So sometimes when I, like do this, see, this is dripping down right now, and this would leave marks. Use Kleenex and paper towels. It is perfectly okay to use chemicals on the outside. Just make sure that the vapors of the Kleenex, when you spray it onto the side glass, will not get into the water. Ensure the inside of the glass above the water level is stain-free. Check the water level. The problem is, how do I check it? I start to look upwards from a lower position. And if I do that, I can still observe in that line in the back, I can see some stains. Because of evaporation during the week, the water level will decrease and decrease and decrease, and you don't want that. It's going to leave ugly marks on the inside of the tank, so it's generally a good idea to top it off with clean water. The minerals that are in the tank would not evaporate together with the water, so you just need to replace it with clean water, no additives. And I prefer to have it topped off like this. Fish will not jump out if they feel good in the aquarium. If the environment is favorable, they will be okay with this. Next step, check the CO2 bottle and bubble count. Monitor pressure, which rises before depletion. Listen for gas leaks. Sometimes you can hear the gas leaks, but the CO2 gas is very small particle gas. What did I mean about the pressure increase when the tank depletes? Actually, the liquid CO2 starts to, be only gas, CO2 gas inside the bottle, and that would result in a gauge indication, a higher gauge indication in this case. Next step, keep lights clean without water splash marks, especially on the inside of the shades where there's a mirror. You can see some watermarks. I don't like that. And also you can have some dust on the top, so you don't. Quite clean, I'm happy. Okay. Refill automatic fertilizer dosers and fish feeders as needed, or if levels drop below 1/4. Inspect filter cleanliness by observing the flow. inspect for leaks, filter leaks, check the cleaning log and digital platforms. Okay, so let's go from the end. This one has a digital platform. If you would to log into the platform of the digital filter, you could actually see a percentage of how much it is clogged already. So when it gets up to 60–70%, you should clean it definitely. Otherwise, what I do is I just take the outflow and I just raise it, and I see how fast it pushes the water, and I could see that it's perfectly fine in this case. So it's working nicely. If you just see water just coming out in a very lazy way, then you've got an issue and you need to do something about it. Sometimes if you have an older filter and the sealing rings, you know, they're aged or they're not cleaned or they're not treated with the lubricants properly, you will start to see some leaks, and you don't want to let them, you know, be bigger and flood the kitchen or the living room, because your spouse is going to kill you. So you don't want to do that. Clean the glassware, filter, CO2 and dozer hoses. Inspect for kinked hoses. Replace old discolored ones. Okay, so what happens is the hoses themselves are sometimes discoloring with time. So they get like yellowish, brownish, and you don't want that. And also glassware, this is a 10-year-old glassware, and we've been cleaning it with everything, and sometimes we're like scraping it with sand and problems. So I can already see that this is not completely transparent. Again, this is a 10-year-old lily pipe, so you don't have to change it after 6 months. After 10 years, maybe not, if you clean it properly. Kinked hoses. When you check the hoses, sometimes as they enter the cabinet or inside the cabinet, if you have an external filter, they are sometimes, you know, breaking, kinked, and that is not helping the flow. Next step, ensure UV is on. The heater is set correctly. pH computer is calibrated regularly. The pH computer should be calibrated every 3 months or so. Check the logs. And with that, we have arrived to the last group, which is the others. The good news is that this group is directly related to green aqua circumstances, like cleaning the plant holding tanks, cleaning the floor, align seating puffs correctly, distance them from the 120p tanks 10 times. You're gonna laugh here. This is very green aqua, okay? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So everything should start here. These points are something that you should have or you should not have. You want to take care or you don't want to take care, depending on your circumstances. So I'm not going to enumerate all of them. You can go and visit the maintenance.greenaqua.com website. But if you find something in that list that you think that we missed, please let us know, because we're just humans. We miss things, as we miss things with maintenance here. Not all maintenance guys are the same. They have better days, worse days. We're just human, okay? So I read the comments, and I know that some of you can relate to the stuff and are being, you know, chilled by the fact that green aqua has also problems and we struggle with the same problems like you do. Yes, we do. Obviously, we make mistakes, we don't find the root cause, we forget things. That's why we have this checklist here. So I hope that this was useful for you. Let us know what you think, and we will see you next week. Bye-bye.